Now, with those recent floods across the country, we now know that this has been classified a national disaster. This is after most parts of the country experienced that severe weather. Let's speak now to the head of the National Disaster Management, Dr. Elias Sithole, get a sense of what does this now declaration mean. Doc, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. Clarify for us, what does this declaration of a national disaster now mean in terms of coordinating the responses from the various provinces which I have mentioned? For example, in KwaZulu-Natal, they say they need 3.1 billion rands, particularly for infrastructure, for restoration of basic services. Other provinces might need something else as well. How are you going to coordinate that?
Good afternoon, Thabo. Good afternoon to the viewers as well. Yes, you are correct. These floods really damaged a lot of infrastructure in different provinces across South Africa. But unfortunately, KZN suffered a huge number of fatalities as a result of this flood. Thabo, this classification, it will then allow the provincial departments and also the municipalities to reprioritize their budget so that they can repair those damaged infrastructures as quickly as possible. So that is really the intention of the classification. But also this national classification, it also now will allow the national executive to coordinate this event at national level. There is a structure which we call it the Intergovernmental Committee on Disaster Management. It comprises of all the ministers, mayors, premiers from different provinces. So that structure will then now sit and receive reports and progress and see where are the bottlenecks in different provinces and the municipalities. And then we're able to zoom in those areas and assist those affected provinces and the municipalities.
So you use a word that is called contingency protocols, or that those measures are now supposed to kick in. Is it the understanding at a national level that all provinces at least should have capacity for these contingency protocols? Is there something that they must set aside for such an instance?
Look, initially, what we always say to provinces and the municipalities, we know that the money is very scarce. Most of the municipalities, they are really under financial constraint. So we always say that there must be some sort of a percentage which provinces and the municipalities are setting aside, so that when something happens, they are able to respond to those incidences as quickly as possible. But we do know by now that some of the provinces and the municipalities, they can't really set aside any contingencies in terms of financial arrangements. So that's why we're saying we might have monies in another grant or somewhere else in the province or in the municipality, which now that money can be reallocated to these urgent projects. But also let me indicate that also from our side, as the National Disaster Center, working with Treasury, will now speedily allocate the response grant so that we're able to assist those affected municipalities.
Yeah, and in instances where, I mean, you have municipalities or even provinces that have been hit by more than one, so they might have had a contingency in 2022. In 2025, they were hit again. In 2023, they were hit again. In 2024, they were hit again, and their resources would have been depleted. Is there a provision here in this declaration for them as opposed to source out funding via other mechanisms like lending, for example, and does National therefore stand as surety for those provinces?
Yeah, you are correct, Thabo, that each and every year, what we have observed now as a National Disaster Center, we tend to see a province will be affected by floods in one year, then the following year, they will also be hit by another flood, maybe more destructive than the previous one. So this arrangement now, this classification, it will then allow the provinces to approach us at national level and say, we're able to reprioritize our budget, but we have now this shortfall, which we have. Then from our side, then we'll be able to see, based on the availability of the funds, then how best we can augment that shortfall into that municipality or the province. But also, Thabo, we do have organizations which then now and then approach us in terms of the donations. You might have seen during KZN floods 2022, we've got a number of international organizations, the AU, the SADC, they came on board and donated some of the funding to repair some of the infrastructures there. So this process as well will open that window of opportunity so that some of the institutions, they can come and donate some of the funding so that those municipalities and provinces, they can be assisted.
Now, there is, of course, key actions, as you've mentioned, that will now happen between intergovernmental departments and collaborations. But as far as key actions in terms of rebuilding some of the damaged infrastructure, because there is widespread damage, some of it is public, some of it is private infrastructure, most of it, of course, also hitting the levels of service delivery, so your water infrastructure, electricity infrastructure. How is the assistance going to be spread out? I mean, is there any provisions that are made for those in the private space who might not have insured their properties?
Look, maybe let me start with the public infrastructure. We have a scenario where some of the public infrastructure, they are insured. So those ones, then it makes it easy for the municipality or for government actually to claim those insurances, and then we will be able to repair those affected infrastructure. Of course, there are businesses in the space of the municipalities as well. So in cases where we have a business which has been affected and those businesses, they are insured, then they will then approach the insurance companies. But those ones which have not been insured, those ones then is a situation where we might then sit within this committee, which I've indicated, and then table this kind of a request or a challenge to say, in this particular area, we have these challenges coming from the private sector. How then this committee can deal with those kind of requests or that kind of a situation. Through that kind of a committee of ministers, then they can guide us in terms of what is the best approach in terms of assisting those affected businesses.
What skills, what capacity do you have within that committee, particularly in the rebuilding of more resilient infrastructure, seeing, of course, we are in the space of global warming and these adverse events are becoming regular, and therefore the building or the rebuilding needs to now put up structures that are a little bit more resilient to such instances?
Thabo, look, when we have disasters, we have a lot of structures which we establish. For example, we'll have a joint operations center established at the municipality level. That is a structure close to the incident. Then when you also go to the province, you'll have a structure there in the province which actually is chaired by either the MEC or by the head of the disaster management center in the province. In the structure at the provincial level, you have all the sector departments sitting there, and then they're able to guide the process. If, for example, the area was affected by either the flood or hailstorm, and then you'll have a human settlement department sitting there as well in the structure, then they're able to provide those kind of assistance through the structure at the provincial level, going down to a joint operations center, which is a structure closer to the incident, which is actually established at the municipality level. Then at national level, we'll then have what we call it, the National Disaster Management Advisory Forum. That is a structure chaired by myself, and it comprises of different officials coming from different departments with different skills sitting there. The one which I just mentioned is a structure where all the ministers sit, but below the structure, we've got what we call it is a structure of the DGs from all the departments at national level. So we do have technical structures where the skills is available in those structures. Then we have a political structure. So a political structure, that's where we take our report and present to those structures to get guidance from our political principals, so that also we inform them in terms of what we are doing as a technocrats on the ground.
Doc, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Dr. Elias Sithole, head of the National Disaster Management Team there.